What would you do if you discovered a secret that could break your family apart? Would you betray someone else to protect someone you love? This is precisely what happened to me. I believed I was doing the right thing by assisting my mother, but now my father won't look at me. He disowned me, and my family is more shattered than ever. Let me explain how everything went wrong. Is there any way I can repair my relationship with my father, even though he has disowned me and stated unequivocally that he wants nothing to do with me? I am 26 years old and female. My mother is 45 and my father is 46. It'll be a long and challenging road, but I'm okay with cussing, abuse, and curses since I deserve it and am numb to them after going through so much. I never imagined I'd be here. My life is currently a shambles. I'm my parents' only kid. They met as young as 16 and had me when my mother was 19 and my father was 20. It was an unanticipated pregnancy. My father is the type of man any woman would love to be with. He cooked, worked, and did everything, including kissing the ground my mother walked on. I never thought he was unreasonable or damaging. He was a family man, someone you'd want to be with. My mom is also excellent. She was always there for me and helped me in any way she could. My father wanted to have more children, but my mother refused and never explained why. When I was 16 and my mother was 35, my father suffered an accident and was bedridden for 7 months. Though I never had to worry about money because I attended a private school, there were always bills. Although we are not from the United States, it is expensive where I live. In the following months, my mother acquired a job and took up my father's duties. She did everything, and I occasionally assisted her with household duties. Here's the twist. She met someone and grew emotionally connected. If I recall well, one day after Dad had been ill for 5 months, she came to my room and secretly broke down crying after my father had dozed off. She told me that she liked someone at work. She wasn't attracted to my father anymore, and the whole situation was too much for her. She also had needs. She showed me her text messages and talked about this guy. He was 26 at the time, and they were flirting. I was young at the time, and watching her break down crushed my heart. I wasn't as close to my father as I was to my mother because she spent more time with me. I realize it seems ridiculous, but I was a teenager. I told her I understood and would cover for her. She began returning home later, and we both assured Dad that it was only her work. I only got involved when my mother asked me to meet and discuss something serious. We went out, and I met him for the first time. He was a weirdo with shaggy clothes, nothing like my father. I'm still unsure why my mother selected this guy over my father. We sat at a fine restaurant, and my mother informed me she was having a baby. I was like, "What?" They had the arrogance to kiss in front of me. They disgusted me. I asked them what they planned to do. She had no idea what she wanted to do. She tried to keep the baby, but also said she loved my father. It was a challenging situation, and we discussed it that night. She informed me that she had decided to keep the kid. Again, I naively chose to keep my mouth shut. After that, my mother informed my father that she was pregnant. My father was ecstatic, but I could tell he was concerned since money was still an issue. He pushed himself to do exercises and therapy for the next 2 months to return to work, despite the doctor saying he required more time. He ultimately returned to work and reassigned my mother to her previous stay-at-home duty. My mother's affair ended shortly after my brother's birth. My father did not sign the birth certificate. He brought some papers, but wouldn't tell me what they were. My mother was still healing from a C-section, and my father was quiet about everything. He did not acknowledge my brother. When my mother returned home from the hospital, he informed her that he wanted a divorce. The news hit my mother like a truck. She had a total mental breakdown, begging and crying uncontrollably. My father, however, was unconcerned. He told her he knew everything and regretted having me because I was ungrateful, entitled, and selfish like her. I recall they had a heated disagreement while I was holding my brother. My father called my mother horrible names and accused her of failing to keep her legs closed, claiming she expected him to raise a kid as a result of her infidelity. My mother just kept crying and begged for forgiveness. My father packed his stuff and left. The divorce took 8 months to be finalized. I don't know all of the details, but Dad agreed to pay spousal support for my mother and child support for me. Mom received the house. My father relinquished main custody of me and even denied weekend visits, only agreeing to supervised visitation. He never attempted to reach out to me. I tried to contact him several times throughout and after the divorce, but he refused to be part of my life. When I turned 18, he called me once. I was thrilled that day, but he was cold, which surprised me. He expressed his desire that I was happy and that he forgave me for what I had done, but he could never forget that he had been betrayed by his own kid. He said he was disowning me. That impacted me more than I ever expected. I recall collapsing to the ground and crying. I called my mother nasty names and blamed her for wrecking our family. I even lashed out at my brother, claiming that he was a daily reminder of what she had done, and that, as a result, I no longer had a father. Following the divorce, my mother never dated anyone. She sank into sadness, took a well-paying but unsatisfying work, and rented out one of the house's rooms to make ends meet. She still celebrates her wedding anniversary and occasionally cries. My brother frequently asks about his father, but I never have a response other than, "We don't have one." It's been 9 years after the divorce, but my mother has never completely moved on. She occasionally hooks up with someone, but has never considered settling down again. She believes that making $60,000 annually and renting out a room will support us for the rest of our lives. My father, on the other hand, has his life together. He created a business, remarried, and had a son. I often look at his web profile. He has never accepted my friend request, and he ignores my texts. From what I've seen, he's living an extraordinary life. I know I don't deserve to say it, but I'm just as much to fault as my mother for destroying our lives and my brother's. But I miss my father. I miss him a lot. I miss our family time together. I experienced grief, graduations, and even an accident, but I did not have my father beside me. I feel like my insides are screaming. I attempted to meet him, but he relocated to another city when he realized I wanted to see him. Last year, I welcomed a son. He looked so much like my father that I wanted to name him after him. I want him to meet my son. I'm getting married at the end of the year, and there's nothing I want more than for my father to lead me down the aisle. I botched up. I want him to yell at me and say I don't deserve to be his daughter. I want him to be upset, but more importantly, I want him in my life. I haven't gone a day without missing him all these years. I've sent lengthy emails explaining and apologizing, but he has not answered. I met him once, in November 2020. I approached him and said, "Hi." He was with his son and wife. He looked me straight and asked, "Who am I?" When I informed him I was his daughter, with tears in my eyes, he stated he didn't have a daughter and left. I was with my fiancé, who handled everything for me. My father is not a nasty person. He did exactly what anyone in his position would have done. I understand I have no right to ask him for forgiveness or anything else. Still, I simply want him to acknowledge me once. I want him to recognize me on my wedding day, look me in the eyes, and inform me that I am his daughter. The community's reaction began with someone remarking that my mother had a screw loose. They couldn't believe she believed it was acceptable to tell her underage child about her affair, show me text messages, and include me in her secret. They stated my mother should not have put me in the center. Another individual joined in, arguing that I should not have gotten involved. They labeled my mother a piece of junk for dragging me into her situation, claiming she deserved everything that happened to her. But they also argued that neither my brother nor I deserved any of it. However, they pointed out that I was old enough to know better and should have told my mother to immediately come clean to my father. They claimed I couldn't compel my father to have a relationship with me, and they were sad he chose to cut me off. They recommended that I seek therapy. I responded, conceding that it appears that this is the way things are meant to be. I never go a day without wondering about having my father in my life. I mourn him, but he has definitely moved on, and it appears that he no longer wants to acknowledge me. My tale is challenging and complicated, and it is clear how much this has affected me. It's devastating when the individuals supposed to be our rock become the source of our deepest pain. I was put in an impossible situation, and it wasn't proper that my mother implicated me in her disagreements with my father. I deserved to be a child without the burden of adult problems, and it was a significant breach of trust. I know I'm not to blame for my family's downfall. It's normal to mourn what I've lost and long to reconnect with my father, but sometimes, no matter how much I want it, people's decisions are beyond my control. Deep inside, I know I've done nothing wrong here, and need to remind myself of that.
Second story. Is it wrong of me to prioritize my nephew and niece over my own children after they kept their mother's affair a secret for years? I, 57, was married to my wife for about 25 years, and we split 4 years ago after I discovered her infidelity. She had an affair for almost 5 years and is now with him. The entire procedure wounded me greatly because everything I accomplished in life was for my wife and children. Finding out about her betrayal was awful. My 2 children, 29-year-old daughter and 26-year-old son, had known about the affair for years but kept it from me. They felt terrible about it, and I don't blame them. They didn't want to split up our family. My daughter cried and apologized several times, but I assured her it was fine. I did not like the guilt to consume them, so I asked them to let it go. However, since discovering that they kept the affair hidden from me, I've lost a lot of love for them. I wasn't going to cut them out of my will or anything. Still, I just couldn't connect with them emotionally anymore. I also have a niece, 30 female, and nephew, 28 male, who I've always been close to, especially since their father died when they were young. I played a father figure in their lives, and losing her spouse was really difficult for my sister. I've spent more time with them over the last 4 years. They now have children and ask me for all their big occasions, including birthdays, holidays, and Father's Day. We're a close-knit, multi-generational family, and I'm pleased to be a grandfather to their children. We have formed a solid bond. In contrast, I have lost interest in communicating with my own children. My daughter has 2 children, while my son is expecting his first child. They've invited me several times, but I've consistently declined due to my hectic schedule. I rarely visit and have missed most of their children's significant occasions. I'm not interested in being a grandfather to their children. Sure, I send gifts, but I have no desire to see them. My daughter is especially wounded by this, but I hope she understands my reasoning. I'm not looking for vengeance. I simply can't connect emotionally with them. This is not about them. It is about me. I enjoy spending time with my niece, nephew, and their children, but I feel nothing for my own children. Yes, my children are harmed by this, particularly my daughter. They know I spend time with their cousins and their children, but with the time I have left, I want to prioritize myself and my mental health. My niece and nephew were previously included in my will. I regard my son, daughter, niece, and nephew as my children, so my estate is divided equally among them. My children deserve to know the truth, not be uncertain like I had been for years. So I just had a video call with my daughter and son. It was challenging and emotional, but I could express myself completely. I told them that while I had forgiven them, I would never forget and that it was best for my mental health if we kept our interactions limited. I told them not to feel bad, but after spending more than half of my life with my wife and children, it was time for me to prioritize myself. I said my heart was not in it to be a grandparent to their children and that I only felt happy with my niece and nephew's children. With my own children, I simply felt nothing. They undoubtedly already knew this, but I wanted them to hear it from me. It was difficult to tell this to their faces, but I had to. I assured them they could come to my place any time and phone me if they needed anything. My children took it hard, especially my daughter. Seeing her shed such ugly tears made me feel terrible, but yet relieved. I'd finally been honest with them, and we could all move on. A commentator inquired whether my children accepted it or begged for a chance to make things right, and whether their connection with their mother had deteriorated. I responded that they did not pray but apologized profusely and requested me to reconsider. I told them I'd think about it but rather keep the interactions brief for now. Their relationship with their mother has deteriorated significantly. Another commenter stated that it was a sad scenario overall. Someone else mentioned that I probably needed to see a professional therapist, and I agree. This level of mental weight requires expert assistance, not simply advice from Reddit. It's commendable that I've chosen to be upfront about my feelings, and my willingness to support them from afar shows a level of care that's still present, even if it looks different now. Being honest with my children may lead to a deeper understanding and a new kind of relationship in the future, even if it takes a different shape than I once envisioned. Lies, especially in close relationships, can cause deep, hard-to-heal wounds. When trust is broken, it often takes much longer to rebuild than it did to lose it. Lies might seem like a way to protect someone, but they usually create more pain in the long run. Even when it's difficult, honesty is crucial for maintaining healthy relationships. Forgiveness is possible, but it requires accountability, time, and a genuine effort to repair the damage caused. If you found this video helpful, please subscribe to the channel for more insights and support. Your journey matters. We're here to help you navigate it. Remember to hit the notification bell so you get all the updates. Thank you for watching and take care.